World's Finest number 18, written by Paul Levitz, art by R.B. Silva and Scott McDaniel. So last issue, Supergirl, Power Girl, in order to try to fix her powers, went up into the sun, or real close to it, and turns out that didn't work because she came down and she couldn't control her powers, but now she was overpowered. So we see her floating above the water. Huntress is trying to get a hold of her. And Huntress is saying like, hey, you're going to bring down the bridge. Let's control yourself. She's like, I can't. Oh, geez. So Huntress throws up her crossbow to like grapple around Power Girl's legs and then just tries to yank her down as best she can. And obviously she's like floating up in the air. Not much to be done. So she fires off another grappling hook into a nearby boat, which then gives them enough power to drag Power Girl down into the water, where basically she just starts like dunking her, just pushing her head underwater and trying to cool her down until finally she's like, oh, Jesus Christ, it's the East River. I'm going to die now. She's like, all right, but it's like, good. Are you good now? And she's like, yeah, I'm cooling down. So at that point, she goes up, fixes the bridge of the damage that she caused to it. And she's like, okay, well, my plan didn't work. My powers are still on the fritz, but now it's the opposite where like I just randomly shoot off too much energy. And then all of a sudden she starts like feeling woozy. She's like, oh God, and it's the other way too. So she passes out and is down in the river again. So we cut over to Brooklyn where we find the tattoo girl talking to a man who's like wearing like cult robes, more or less. And she's begging, just like, please, I've done what you've asked. I've attacked the vain people of the city. Please lift your curse. And he's like, oh, my demon that I have behind me named Zazdi, he demands more of you. You have been marked with his tattoos. So go out and continue doing it. It's not a curse. It's a blessing. It's a power. So use it or lose it, baby. And he sends her back out there to continue attacking injustice in the world and whatnot. So we see sometime later in Manhattan, Power Girl and Huntress, or I should say they're civilians, Helena and Karen, are sitting just looking out the balcony. And Karen makes the point of like, do you think that like everyone has a doppelganger on this planet? Or is it just like the superheroes? Is it just like the important ones? And he's just like, I don't know. Who cares? Like, we shouldn't be interacting with them anyway. This isn't our Earth. We want to get back home, remember? And she's like, yeah, right. But like, I got a few boys I wanted to visit, and I wondered if they still exist on this world. And he's just like, oh, Jesus. All right, yeah, it's always about boys. And Helena makes her point clear. It's just like, look, if they're out there, let them be happy. I don't need to talk to them. So at that point, they bicker a little bit about how Kara's a optimist and Helena's a pessimist, but overall, they still have their way. And it's like, look, let's go ahead and find this lady, this arsonist with the tattoos and the shadow powers, and I've got an idea. So at that point, Kara's like, okay, well, here's the thing. You go ahead and look for him, whatever method you want to with your computers and such, and I'm just going to use my powers to fly around town, and we'll see who can do it first. Whoever finds it last buys the other dinner. So Kara flies off and just like, all right, there's only like 10 million people in the city. How hard could it be to find one person? And we see that Helena's plan is to basically use surveillance footage and try to track her down that way. And she does manage to get a recognition finding her coming out of the place in Brooklyn that we saw before. So she stakes out the place, and Helena manages to get the drop on her, kicks her in the back, and stops her from using her hands. But as she's binding her up, the tattoo lady manages to tap one of her tattoos, which still causes the same effect. She manages to push Helena away. And then she watches the tattoo lady run inside and then sits outside for like an hour, it says. Or maybe I'm just misreading this. Maybe she sat outside for 2 hours beforehand. I don't know. Regardless, she goes in, says nobody else should be in there. It should be easy. It's not a trap. But then, of course, inside is the other cult guy. So Helena manages to flip him over her shoulder and take both of them out. But then all of a sudden that wakes up the statue of the demon. And the demon statue starts using its own shadow magic against Helena. Power Girl comes in, immediately starts ripping off all the shadows, and then throws a punch at the statue, then tying together all of his shadow magics into a knot. But then, of course, her powers give out and she starts passing out again. At which point, the statue becomes real. It becomes a real monster. It starts attacking Power Girl, and she's like, oh, screw powers. If Helena's able to do this without powers every day, I should be able to too. And so she stands up and she's ready to fight. She tumbles out of the way a few times before coming across Huntress's crossbow and uses it to shoot the monster in the chest, where it then explodes, and then that's it. That's the whole fight. So we then go to a restaurant where Helena's like, why am I paying? I'm the one who found him first. You were just following me. She's like, right, but then I saved your ass. So, haha, you owe me. And I guess that means that the tattoo character is gone. She literally never got a real name. It's only in this back matter that I know that her name is Tat. So, yeah. That's the arc. There's only so many times I could say the exact same thing, which is this book feels like a disconnected series of events that are just ever so loosely strung together with like what could be very generously called a plot. And I've said this since like issue 4. It just seems like there's no real guiding motion to this. It's just a generic, and now we're doing this, and now we're doing that. And it's just moving along that way. And this is no different. Now all of a sudden there's a demon statue that gives tattoo powers, and then Power Girl's powers short out, so then she has to shoot it with a crossbow. Like, it doesn't feel like anything has ever been set up. It feels like everything is just kind of guiding on from whatever happened last issue in a kind of Mad Lib style. So I don't dislike it. It's not an awful read, but it's also such a quick read because it doesn't feel like it's trying to bog down anything with any sort of setup. It's just stream of consciousness writing, more or less. So yeah, I'll give this one I'll give it a 6.5. It's 6 sounds better, but like that's too harsh because it's not bad. It's just meh. It's just like the most basic I think a comic story can be told. So yeah, 6.5.